All right, here we go. It's been another little good bit, man. Happy Sunday. Um, Hope you guys are doing good. Haven't heard from you in a minute. Been very busy actually. Um, been doing more, been working more, been trying to keep up with my workout schedule, doing all that, trying to eat more, all the fitness things. And I'm also in school at the moment too, so been just trying to balance all that at the same time. But we're doing it, sorta. Kinda got an assignment that's like a bit late, more than a bit. It's late. It's like late. It's late. But you know what? We gonna get to it when we get to it. You know, procrastination is crazy, but we're gonna get to it when we get to it. So thoughts, right? Thoughts and just being in your head. That has to be my Achilles heel, really. I've always been in my head. I've always been an overthinker. And kind of an underthinker too. But the underthinking was earlier on, right? Like I would do things that would affect myself, that would affect people, and I wouldn't give it a second thought. And now it's the reverse. Like now I rarely do things and I overthink about them, and I give them more than like a second thought. I give them like 10 thoughts. And a good quote that I heard has been like, when you think something through, and I'm probably gonna butcher the quote, but when you think something through, are you fully thinking it out? Like, are you fully thinking through the situation, scenario, whatever you may find yourself to be in? Are you fully thinking it through, or are you thinking the same thought over and over and over again? And I am the latter. And I hope I use the latter right. Trying to improve on vocab. I think I'm the latter. The latter, I believe, means the following. So, hey, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'm the type of person who will say like, "Oh, I'm thinking it through. I'm fully thinking it through," when in reality I'm not. I put more thought into the same thought, if that makes sense. Like I'll just okay. So my mentality when it comes to certain things can be very bad, right? And so I can expect the worst. And because of that, I'll feed in to the immediate negative thoughts that I give myself. And then thank God for my friends, right? Because I'm kind of going through something like that now. Granted, it's not a crazy situation. It's just me overthinking, and I don't want to say overreacting, but it's just me overthinking. And thank God that He has placed some friends in my life to kind of talk me down and keep me like hopeful. You know what? It's gonna be more specific. Shout out Evo QC. He knows. He kind of knows. He knows the situation he knows one of the situations that I'm going through right now, and he has been a really big help in keeping my head on and keeping my head from exploding on this situation. Thank God for him. Bless him. He's a really good friend. But I do have other friends who also step in, and they kind of help recenter me and help refocus me when I'm kind of in a doomer mindset, right? Because it can be easy to fall into that mindset. And it's crazy, right? Because today's Sunday, so I had a sermon today at church, and it was about thoughts, more or less. And it kind of was, y'all probably figure out what church I go to by these points. But like some points that I wrote down were like, that God thought is valuable, and what is the cost of a wrong thought, right? And it's like, are you gonna think the thoughts that are automatic and miss the promises of thinking something better? You know what I mean? And that's like, I'm that first part. like when it comes to every negative situation, and granted, it can be very hard to, when you're shown something over and over and over and over and over again, or not shown, but like when you experience something over and over and over and over and over again, it can be very hard to get out of that negative thinking mindset, right? Because it's the only thing you kind of experienced, or it's the only thing you kind of know. So it's like, okay, you get to a point to where you no longer you get to the point to where you no longer even have faith in the situation, right? And a good thing that I heard, like a good quote that I heard about that was that, like you don't want to hit despair. Like if I can find the quote, then I'll put it in like the description or something. But yeah, it's like you can be like disappointed, but you don't want to fall into despair, because despair is like when you've completely given up. I think that's how the quote goes. That was another quote that I heard from church. So yeah, it's just like the fact that I'm just more predisposed to just thinking negatively just because of like, just because of like personal experiences. And I think sorry about that. I think that with this message, this sermon that I heard today, that, God's really just trying to call me out of that way of thinking. And I'm trying, like I'm really trying, like it's just that it really is like kind of hard, like it really is. So I just felt like making this video to just talk about it and briefly like rant, whatever, to just briefly like rant about it, because this is like the only thing I could think of to make a video, and I know I wanted to get one out. But yeah, it can be very hard to escape your own mind sometimes, right? Whether that be feelings of not enough, whether that be feelings of like, just self-doubt, pity, or just overthinking certain situations, taking certain things personal that aren't meant to be taken personally. It can be a lot. And a lot of the time, we can be in our own way. We can be our biggest enemy by the thought patterns that we have and the thought patterns that we give into. But it's not without its own respect to what we've experienced in life, right? Like I'm not gonna come here and be like, hey, get over it, or hey, it's not that deep, right? Because a person who genuinely struggles with this, and not only struggles with this, but a person who doesn't have the external reinforcement of, hey, you're struggling with this, but it's worked out before, right? A person who doesn't have that either, that's the last thing they want to hear is like, oh, it's not that deep, it's not that, like, I get it. There has to be a line drawn where it's like, okay, okay, you can't give in to these thoughts every time they come up. Like, simple, point blank, period. If you give in to this thought every time it comes up, you will never be able to picture a better future for yourself. And that line does need to be drawn. But if you are a friend consoling someone about their problems doing this, I would never lead with, it's not that serious. Regardless of regardless of the gravity of the situation they're in. You know what I mean? I just feel like that's, in my opinion, I feel like that's condescending, right? Like sometimes it's really not that serious, but you're not that person, you're not in their head, you don't know what they're going through. So I feel like it's just condescending and kind of insensitive to be like, hey, so I know that, especially if you're a close friend with someone, like, hey, I know you're going through this. Hey, I know that this is this, and that in your mind, this is this, and this, this, and this. But I'm here to tell you, it's really not that serious. Like, nah. Maybe, which is why I shouted out Jay, because I I was going through a situation where I was in my head, still going through that situation right now. But what he did, and like a way that he provided me, was just an alternative way of thinking, right? And I just really appreciate that. Like, for being in that position, instead of saying, hey, it's not that serious, man. He said, think about it like this. Or he didn't say think about it like this, but he said, what if this is what's going on? And he provided a different way of thinking. Because back to what I said earlier, right? There's a difference between fully thinking something through and then thinking the same thought over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm the type of person who will think the same thought over and over and over and over and over again instead of fully thinking the situation through. And what my friend did at that moment in time was he provided a window of what a genuine actual scenario that could be going on could look like. He said, well, what if it's this? What if this is going on? And that provided more solace for me than, hey, get over it, or hey, like, and sometimes, like, there are some cases where that's what needs to be said, but not always. Like, I genuinely like that, instead of just giving me that response, because he actually put time and thought behind it. So yeah, just try to stay out of your own mind the best you can, right? Because we all, at a point in time, get in our own heads, and some of us are better at, separating those thoughts than others, especially depending on the gravity of the situation, right? Like, if one thing could be, I don't know, talking to people or trying to be more confident, and you can't stay out of your head because of your insecurities. And then the other thing could be you're trying to figure out what's next in life and this and that, or you're trying to like figure out if you can maintain a family, and you don't know what to do from there, and then you're in your own head thinking like, if you're like, I don't know, I can't really speak to that because I don't have my own, like, I don't have my own family in that regard, like I'm not a father or anything like that. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. So just try to stay out of your own head, but it can be hard. I guess I'm here to just say that you're not alone, because there are a lot of people that do struggle with this, and there are a lot of insecure people that struggle with this, obviously, and there are a lot of quote unquote confident people that struggle with this, right? It's something that we all struggle with. That's not to demean your own experiences, but it is just the fact that is something that we all do struggle with, and especially so that it can be hard if you don't have that external reward of you being able to look back at something and be like, okay, well, yeah, I thought like this before and then it worked out, right? Because in certain aspects of my life, that's not applicable. That's not applicable, and I'm sure it's like that for other people as well. To where you really just have to just move forward without having to look back at a time, because it's easier when you can say, dang, I was here, but then I made it out, right? It's easier when you can say that. But when you say like, oh, I was here last year, and it was fucked last year too, so you know what I mean? Like, it's hard. So, but that's what perseverance is. That's what moving forward is. That's what trying, that's just what trying is that there's gonna be a point in time where where you don't have anything to reach back to. You don't have I was in a similar place like this and I made it out. You don't have that. And you just have to keep pushing forward until you do have that. Till you do have a story like that, to where you can say, okay, I was in a situation like that, I made it out, and now I can apply that now. And if you're a type of person if you're someone who is trying to console someone, please, put more love into the response that you give others who are going through something that you went through. just saying that, just saying that I was here too, it gets better. That is, especially if you consider, especially if you're giving some advice to a friend, that is the most half-assed response you can give someone. Again, i.e., the example, I don't even know if I used i.e. correctly. I'm kind of just talking right now, but you guys bear with me. The example that I used was that my friend, instead of just saying it gets better, or instead of just saying, because he's told me multiple times how he's been in a similar situation, but instead of just saying I've been there too, it gets better, or instead of they're saying like, oh, I know what you mean, right? He just gave me a different way of thinking. And that's the best thing you can do, in my opinion, right? To each their own. Everybody has everyone's mind is different. Everyone, responds to something differently. But in my opinion, if you're a friend trying to console someone who's going through a situation like that, provide them a new way of thinking. Like, we get it. You've been in that scenario before, right? And so you understand me. But tell me something that you needed to think for yourself at that time, if that makes sense, right? If that makes sense, right? Because there's like, oh yeah, like there's always the chance that you'll tell someone something and they'll be like, well, you don't understand, you don't get it. And why do they say that? It's because there's not enough. How do I say? I don't want to say, like, I feel like I want to say passion right now, but I don't know if that's like the right term, but there's not enough passion, or I'll just say love in the response that you've given to that person. I feel like if I give you a bare bones response, then it'll be like, if someone gives me a bare bones response, or if I give you a bare bones response, it'll be easy for them to say, oh, like, but you just don't understand, you don't get it. Because it's a very generic response that I can just say, and it makes me feel like I'm just giving you advice without really taking into consideration everything you're going through, right? And that just produces a response of, I mean, yeah, you're right, but you just don't get it. You don't get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I could say, if you don't want to trip, just tie your shoes. And it's like, yeah, like, obviously, right? Holy shit, Einstein, like, obviously. Excuse my language. Should not be cursing like this on Sunday. Or in general, not just on Sunday. But yeah, it's like, okay, Einstein, like, cool. But if I reframe my advice, if I reframe my answer to my friend's distress in a thought process of something that I wanted to hear at that time, then it'll probably be received better. Even if the scenario doesn't end up the way they wanted to, I wanted to, you wanted to, redoing that way of thinking, just giving yourself, if it's you trying to give yourself a pep talk, or if it's you trying to give your friend a pep talk, just changing that way of thinking so they're not thinking the same thought over and over and over again, and then trying to give them hope in that situation. It's 10 times better. 10 times better. So again, Evo QC, shout out to you. Appreciate that, big dog. If you ever hear this, if you ever watch this, you know one of the situations that I was going through, and I just want to say thank you. Like, you've been a very, very big help for me. You've been a very big help, man. And I hope you guys, it was good talking to you guys again. Hope you guys have a good day, good week, and hopefully I see you soon. Take it easy. Love you. Bye.